Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Nicole and this video is about point and shoot film cameras. If you are new here and like these type of videos, please like and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. So in this video, I will talk about point and shoot film cameras because I feel like that's the most popular kind of film camera that people use to take film photos. If you are into film photography, I also have a video on how to start taking film photos. And I highly recommend you watch that one because that one goes more general versus this one will go more specifically into point and shoot film cameras. So that will also be in the link in the description box. So go check that out if you haven't already. I will just warn you though that once you start buying like one point and shoot camera, it's really easy to just start looking up more on the internet and you're like, oh, I like this one, or oh, I like this one. And let me tell you that that's all fine and dandy if you have like the money and the disposable income for it, but in general you should definitely spend your money towards film and film development, since that is what makes your film photography skills better overall. Is just going out and shooting film photos, and getting a bunch of different point and shoot cameras won't necessarily help improve those skills unless that particular camera has something that your other point and shoot film camera can't do. But in film photography, the specs don't matter as much as I would say like a digital camera. So like in my previous video, obviously try to get your film cameras from family friends and then go through the route of looking for them through different means such as eBay, secondhand stores, film camera stores. But in general, try not to spend too much money and just try to find a camera that overall just works. Because the worst thing is when you buy a camera and it doesn't work and you find out that you can't fix it, or it costs too much to fix, or it costs more than the camera itself, and that is just not a good feeling. So one thing I would say that you should look for in a point and shoot camera is sort of what size you want it to be, because there are some really nice point and shoot cameras out there, but they're on the bulkier side. And if it's too bulky, you may not want to carry it, or you think, oh, this is such a pain in the butt to carry, it's too bulky. So you should definitely take that into consideration so that you can get the most use out of your point and shoot film camera. Because for me personally, I don't mind carrying bulky cameras, but I know like my friends, for example, they don't want to carry a bulky camera because they sometimes just throw it in their purse and they want to keep it as lightweight as possible. So for example, here is a Canon AF35M, also known as the Canon Auto Boy, which was Canon's first autofocus 35mm point and shoot camera. So as you can see, this thing is old. This camera was released I think in 1979, and you can definitely tell it has that late 70s, early 80s aesthetic. But also because it's so old, it's very bulky. This camera is heavy, it's bulky. I mean, if you're into this clunky aesthetic, it's cool, but I know a lot of people they would find this really way too bulky to carry around with them. So that's why I said you should definitely take the size of the point and shoot camera into consideration, because carrying something like this may not be your cup of tea, so therefore you won't go out and take photos with it. And versus, here's my trusty Olympus style zoom that my mom used to use. And as you can see, it is way smaller than the Canon Auto Boy. Like, this is like a 20-something year difference in terms of technology, and as you can see, it's like the newer one's way smaller. So definitely take the size into consideration. I know that may not seem like a big deal, but trust me, it is. As someone that has carried many cameras over the years, every day or when I'm traveling, size definitely does matter after a while when you use it a lot. So another thing to consider is obviously the power source. Like some point and shoot film cameras will take batteries you can just find at like a Walmart or CVS. Other point and shoot film cameras may need like a special battery that you just can't find at like a Walmart or CVS kind of thing. So you have to order online, and that can also make it more expensive. And it also will take time to obviously ship it to wherever you live. So that's something to take in consideration. If you want something more carefree, find a point and shoot film camera that takes AA batteries, or like just any common battery you can find in a store. Since I talked about cameras that require batteries, there are point and shoot cameras that do not require batteries, such as this Olympus Trip 35, which is powered by the little selenium ring in the center. So this one only works in outdoors. So that is a pro in the sense you don't need to buy batteries, but there's a con is that if this breaks, then it obviously doesn't work and can be expensive to fix. Also, this would limit you in terms of your shooting because this doesn't have a flash on it. You can't really use it indoors unless there's a lot of light. But overall, I wouldn't really recommend shooting indoors without flash unless you have substantial light or you're going for a certain look that is more, I guess, moody or warm or subtle. I don't know, but just whatever you're trying to shoot, you definitely need to take consideration on the capabilities of the film camera. Another thing to consider when picking out a point-and-shoot film camera is if you wanted to have a flash or not. I know that sounds kind of stupid, but if you're like the kind of person that wants to take your film camera out when you go to a bar or a club or a party and you want to take photos, well, the thing is, in those environments, most times the lighting is not great. It's dark, which is sort of expected. So as a result, you're gonna want flash, or else, you know, your photos are just being dark blobs, and that's not the look we're going for. We want to see your friends or whoever you're going out with. So definitely take that into consideration, that if you plan to use this like a sort of like a night out camera, definitely make sure there's a flash. And another thing you should also consider is if you want a prime lens or a zoom lens on your point and shoot film camera. Zoom lenses offer flexibility. You know, obviously you can just zoom in and not have to physically go up closer to take your photo. Prime lenses are supposedly better, but I see people take excellent photos with either or, prime or zoom lens. So that's something to consider. If you want something more, I guess, easy, less thinking, then get a zoom point and shoot camera. Versus if you have a prime one, there's definitely more of a focus on being able to compose your photo with these restrictions of the set focal length and stuff. So definitely take that into consideration. So besides like your regular typical point and shoot film camera, there are also point and shoot film cameras that have unique features, such as half frame film cameras. So a half frame film camera can take 72 shots on a 36 shot film roll, because each shot you take is half a frame, so 36 times 2 is 72. So that way it's like you slightly get more bang for your buck depending how you view it. And I have one. This is my Olympus Pen EE-3. I really like using this. It's really fun because you can kind of be a little bit more free with your shots, and I like using this when I know I'm going to take something where the photos will be high contrast, I guess you say, next to each other. Like one will be a pretty scenery, and then the next will be like something more simple, or just like my friends or something. So you can definitely be very creative with a half frame film camera. And I also like using it like if I go on a trip, because I feel like you can definitely not be as conservative with your shots when taking photos, since you get 72. So you can take a lot of photos, and it'll be a nice way to document your trip or adventure. So there are also toy point and shoot cameras. Now I probably would recommend buying a toy one because they're not really made to last. Usually the materials aren't as nice, and I mean, it has the name toy in it, so it's not meant to be something that it's gonna last for years and years. So I have this one. This is a Lomo LCA Plus, which is one of the like nicer toy cameras, I guess you say, that Lomography makes. What I like about the toy cameras though is that they are lightweight because the materials aren't as, I guess, robust. But as a con, they don't last as long. So I like this one because it's small, as you can see, it's like really tiny, so it's really easy as like an everyday carry sort of camera. And it has a set prime lens, and you just adjust the focus with this little nub here. And overall, there's also other toy cameras such as the fisheye and stuff like that, but I will also forewarn you that toy cameras, the lenses are usually not made of nice materials, made out of plastic, which also can bring down the cost, and also means your photos will not necessarily look super duper sharp versus taking with like an SLR type film camera. So that's something to be aware of depending on the look you're going for. Another feature that you should also consider when picking out a point and shoot film camera is if you need a self-timer. Now normally I like to carry a tripod sometimes, where it be like a full-size one or a small one. And since we are in the middle of a pandemic, I still don't really want people touching my stuff that much right now. So that's just something to be aware of, because these film cameras are really old, so they may not have a self-timer feature on them, or they're really old and I would not trust using it because the self-timer may just fail, especially if the camera is really old and they're like 20 years old. You know, you could just press that self-timer lever down and the camera could just break because it hasn't been used in years and it's just not working that well. So that is just something I think you should be aware of, or if that's what you're looking for, something you should consider. So when loading your film point-and-shoot camera, so here we have this one. Since you would load the film in here, you would drag the film strip over here, and usually there's like a little slit where you can stick the end of the film in, and then you will close the camera. And since this is a newer film camera, it will automatically wind to the first shot. If you have an older film point-and-shoot film camera, you'll have to kind of like press the start button, it'll go off, and then you kind of wind it until your counter shows that you're on the first shot. So that's just something to be aware of in terms of, I guess, convenience and if you want to deal with that or not. So if I was like a total beginner, like I didn't have any film cameras, and I was a complete noob at shooting, and all I shot was maybe disposables or something, and I wanted to start taking film photos with a point-and-shoot film camera, and I personally would try to go for something like my Olympus style zoom. A, because these are not too expensive, so if it breaks or doesn't work, it's not a huge loss of money. B, it's a zoom, so for composition stuff, not really an issue. It's really easy to use, and also this does not look expensive, so you don't have to worry about getting stolen. Versus if you buy something that's like very aesthetic, I feel like people are going to think, oh, that camera's really expensive, and people will try to steal it. And we aren't trying to have that happen to us. So I like that camera because it's very inconspicuous and it works well and easy to use. And I would buy some 400 speed film. So for me personally, I like Fujifilm Superior 400. If you buy it in the 3-pack, it's cheaper than buying it individually. I don't know if they even sell it individually, but definitely buy the 3-pack. This is really cheap, and this is like my favorite film stock that I use, and I always recommend to people starting out to buy this one. So I would buy this one. Even to this day, I would still buy this one over Kodak Ultramax 400. And I know this is more of a preference thing. You can get some nice shots out Kodak 400 Ultramax, but I prefer Fujifilm Superior 400. And one way you can decide what film you want to shoot is you can look online and see what kind of photos people took with that film. And I think like Flickr is probably a good resource for that. I wouldn't necessarily trust Instagram, because sometimes Instagram people will just like hashtag all the different film stocks, even though that's not the film stock that they use in the photo, plus, you know, editing and stuff. So that is just what I would do if I was personally starting out today in 2021. So that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I will be posting and creating more film photography content for you guys, so you should like and subscribe so you'll see it. Anyways, thanks again, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.